For today's lesson, the objective is to compare decimals based on place value. So you're thinking about these numbers based on what place value the digits have. In videos from 2 weeks ago, I showed you this place value chart, and it also includes the decimals that we're working on, the tenths place and the hundredths place. So today, I want us to focus on our numbers and thinking about where they go if it's a whole number and where the digits go if it's in a decimal form, and what that means as it's representing value. Using base 10 blocks, here is a number that I would like to represent on the place value chart. One entire grid of these is a total of 100 squares. The total of 100 squares, all colored in, tells me that it is one whole. Now I have two groups of 10 here, 1, 2, so I have 2 tenths. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4 hundredths. So this number represented is 1 and 24 hundredths. With using the base 10 blocks, it's easy for me to see the actual amount that each number is representing based on where it is on the place value chart. Now, however, what if I wanted to represent a different number? I'm going to take these away, tenths away, and I have this number here. Well, this number is showing me that I have one whole. Do I have any groups of tenths? I do not, so there's a 0 here. But I do have 1, 2, 3, 4 hundredths still. For me, it's easy to see that the number 1 and 4 hundredths, it's smaller than the number 1 and 24 hundredths because I'm missing the two groups of tenths. Let's represent another number using our base 10 blocks first. I'm going to take away the hundredths now. Here we can clearly see that we still have our one whole, and we have our two groups of 10, so we have 2 tenths. And I took away the hundredths, so I have 0 hundredths. So what this means is that as a decimal, we have one whole and two groups of tenths. Now, 1 decimal point 2, 0 is the same thing as 1 decimal point 2, because this is telling us that we only have two groups of tens and no hundredths. We don't have any of these. So you could either use a 0 there or you can leave it blank. The value of the number doesn't change at all. It's the same thing. Okay, so if we're thinking about ordering these numbers from least to greatest, you want to make sure that you start by looking in the whole numbers section of the place value chart. Whole numbers always carry more value because it's the whole number. All of these numbers have 1 as a whole number, so that doesn't tell me anything about which one's greater and which one's smaller. So then we jump over to the tenths place value. Now here is where we compare. The tenths place value shows us groups of 10. So this number has 2 groups of 10 and this number has 2 groups of 10. This one does not have any tens at all. When we look at tens in comparison to hundredths, tens are a lot bigger than hundreds because you need 10 of these guys to make one of the tenths. So if you have 0 in a tenths, this means that this number is smaller in comparison to these two. So if I'm going from smallest to largest, 1 and 4 hundredths is the smallest. Okay, so now we only have to think about 1 and 24 hundredths and 1 and 20 hundredths. We looked at the ones place value. We looked at the tenths place value. Let's jump over to the hundredths place value. We already determined that this number was the smallest. So now we're comparing 4 to nothing. 4 hundredths compared to no hundredths. Obviously, 4 is more. So 1 and 24 hundredths ends up being the largest number. Leaving us with 1 and 20 hundredths, or 1 and 2 tenths in the middle.